Hello, everybody. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're lying in your bed late at night, or you've woken up with a sudden hunger pain, and you're thinking about this leftover pizza down in the kitchen, but it's dark and you don't want to put the light on to wake up any family members. Imagine trying to find your way downstairs and then trying to heat that pizza in your modern microwave without turning on any lights. Hopefully nobody stubs their toe on the way down. But, well, for me, that's every day. And going to strange places makes it even more interesting. So today, I think it's going to be an interesting thought experiment because my laptop's not working anyway, so we don't have any visuals. So you're going to experience how I experience all the talks. Hopefully we'll have a few laughs along the way. By the way, somebody gave me a real horror story the other day. One of my colleagues gave me a grate and said, "How about reading this?" So anyway. So I think the best way for me to try and bring the message across is to tell you a bit about myself. And I hate talking about myself, but I think to give you some perspective of my journey in life, where I am, how I got here, may explain why I'm probably in a good position to talk about the topic. So I have an eye condition known as fever, F-E-V-R. Anyway, I'll send out some notes with all the research and links that I have that if people want to do some reading. Essentially, it's a degenerative condition. It's curable if it's caught in time. Unfortunately, in my case, I had severe retina detachment by the time it was discovered, and other complications. So my sight was not being able to be saved, and I went blind at the age of 6. Somehow I always wanted to be independent, and I was really good at maths and science. So from a young age, I was like, well, I have to do something of that. So I ended up getting a BSc degree in maths and computer science, and in South Africa we have what we call an honours, so that's a 4th year in computer science. I've been lucky. I've worked on some cool projects. I worked for ThoughtWorks. I work at EE. So I'm really lucky to be worked at the top companies, worked on some big projects like internet banking. Been on some healthcare project calculating. I know there's a South African company actually called Discovery. I think they have branches in the UK. But anyway, their product is sold all over the world, calculating a thing called your vitality age. So how healthy are you versus your biological age? And I worked at Hays, which was quite fun as well. So just work-wise, that's kind of the journey I've had. Some personal interests. I want to be a musician. I love playing chess, and I go cycling. I have a guide dog called Paris, who takes me all over, and I have 3 children, 2 at university. You'll find me, I don't know, catching trains, buses, taxis. I'm always on the go, doing stuff. So I'm telling you all of this because I think that makes me pretty normal, like all of you, going out, living life, doing stuff, with the irritation of not being able to access some common devices. Like you get home and you realize, oh, I need to do some washing, and like, oh, gosh, I can't remember how many times I need to press this button to do wash. So that's really the backdrop to the story. Is it's like I'm a blind person trying to live a normal life, and as our appliances become more and more intuitive and fancy, they also become harder to use. Imagine how many of you could now tell the person next to you how to do a wash in your washing machine without having to look at the display. Anyway, so to move on, what I want to do, I have something. I'm going to pass my phone around together with I brought a special something.
Search page 1
Just give me a second.
Search page 1 of 5. App switcher. CAI active. CAI menu button. Quicker. Recognizing barcodes button.
No, I don't want to recognize barcode.
Channel. Product. Adjustable. Person. Currency. Scene. Preview. Color. White. Handwriting. Preview. Light. Handwriting. Color. Scene. Currency. Person. Product. Document. Short text.
Okay, cool. So, I don't know, Gary, you still on?
Yeah.
Would you be able to? Would you mind trying to circulate this with my phone?
Sure.
And you can try and use my phone and see if you can read individual bits of text. So so if you hold the phone, they focus on text. See, you can try and see if you can read. So that's a typical way. It's not easy to use or operate a washing machine like this, but like reading cans of stuff in your pantry. Use it a lot to identify spices and things. Sometimes if computer goes into a mode that I don't know what it's doing, I pull this thing out. Anyway, the first thing I want to talk about is what is it that makes devices inaccessible. So this particular machine that we're passing around, it's got LEDs, it's got a turn knob, and it's got LEDs that light up to show which washing cycle you're choosing. And it makes a beep every time you turn the knob, but the tone stays the same, so you never know what you're selecting. Plus there's another complication with these particular Samsung machines is every time you switch it on, it recalls the last cycle that you were on, so you don't start from the same position. So if somebody else in the house used the machine on a different setting to you, you could be, well, I don't know, washing wool instead of heavily soiled items. Which is not so cool. Yeah, it's happened. I've wanted a 20-minute cycle before, and I've washed for 3 hours. So that's in part what makes this machine difficult. In general, things that are difficult are touch screens. Are often difficult, especially like stoves, glass-top stoves with a touch screen can be really tricky. And I mean, yeah, I suppose you can imagine for obvious reasons. So, what are some of the things that we can do to make us better? So, often we can stick some labels on things. Like if you've got turning knobs with an arrow, you can stick some stuff onto a machine, and then if you turn the arrow to that particular thing, this is what you're going to be selecting. Sometimes for touch screens, we'll stick dots next to the spot where you need to press with your finger. It works with some; it doesn't work so well with others. Another aftermarket modification I really wanted to play you guys a cool video. So this was something I started looking into, especially for this brand of Samsung washing machine. So the idea was to cover all the LEDs with a thing called an LDR, which is a light diode resistor, I think. Basically, it's when there's the presence of light, it allows electricity to flow, and the absence of light creates resistance. So the idea that I started playing with was to cover all the LEDs with these things and to wire them up to a device such as a Node MCU board, in particular the ESP8266. And then you can detect which LED is on, and then have some pre-recorded labels that tell you wash, quick wash, whatever. And then I found a really cool video on the internet where somebody had actually done this. Instead of using a Node MCU board, they used an Arduino, but it's similar idea. So I thought that was really, really cool. But then thinking about it, then I realized, but that ties me to one machine. It ties me to the machine sitting in my kitchen. And working at EE, I travel. I go to Cape Town a couple of times a year. This is the second time I've been to London in 2 years. So, like, what do you do about machines in a new environment? How do you figure out what to do? I guess another option is you could always, I've had to do this before, phone a friend on a video call. There's also a service called Be My Eyes, where you can be in touch with volunteers and try and share your screen. You'll turn your camera on. It's quite a mission to get that right. Like, people who've worked with me before, I worked with one of these two-factor authentication things that prints these little numbers every now and then. So every morning I used to have to go on a Zoom call with a colleague and hold this thing in the camera for him to try and read the numbers to me so I can log in for the day. So these are some of the challenges. So I guess phoning a friend can be a last resort, but one wants to try and be as independent as possible. So it's not the first prize. So then the next option. So we've considered so far aftermarket modifications. We've considered phoning a friend. Then the next category is purpose-built devices. So you get some devices, in particular, I found a microwave oven.
Your phone is just here.
Oh, thank you so much. I found a microwave oven, a talking microwave oven that you can buy. I think it's 25 liters. So I compared the price of that to the prices of a regular Samsung or LG microwave. So in South African rands, the talking microwave was 7,500 rand versus a regular microwave that you can just go and pick up off any store of a similar size is about 1,800 rand. Then the next best thing I could find was an Amazon basic microwave oven that works with Alexa. And that's a 12.5 liter, basically. I really laughed at the description. It's good for warming up a cup of coffee. So the problem is, I did quite a lot of searching. I found two products. The one is kind of a gimmick. The the other one is like 3 times the price. And the other problem with it is it is not a well-known brand like Samsung or LG or something, or DeFi, where you're going to take it if something goes wrong. That's the other problem. In terms of washing machines, the brand, I think you pronounce it Miele, have done some work with the RNIB. So you can get a talking washing machine. I have no idea of what the cost is. I looked, I couldn't find a price. But I'm sure it's, especially for people outside the UK, I think it would be expensive. And also, who's going to service it for you if you need help? So, given the situation, it's like where does it leave us? So I was still intrigued. I suppose I'm a bit of a geek. Still intrigued with using something like Node MCU boards and stuff. So speaking to some people and doing some more research, most of the interfaces of like washing machines, you actually get generic interfaces that you could wire in instead of the one that your machine ships with. And there's usually like ribbon cables between these UIs that you see and the actual board of the machine. And I spoke to somebody and I got the idea that if you catch the signal in the ribbon cable between the board and the actual UI, you can get the communication that's going back and forth between the UI and the machine. And if you could catch that, you could interpret that. So from there, I got this idea of a framework. It's quite a bad name. I called it AHA, Access Home Appliances. And the idea is, so these ESP8266 chips, you can run C code on them, or Lua script, or mini Python, and they're Wi-Fi enabled. So this gives us some possibilities, and they're very low cost, like I don't know, $2 or $3 a chip. It's non-invasive. So the idea would be to write a bit of software that can interpret the signals on passing through on these ribbon cables, and then using an event bus, some kind of a message bus, this device can just constantly be sending out status, and it can also be listening to events, so that you could send it an event of, I don't know, to start a wash, select a particular cycle, and it'll turn that into the signal again that it'll just push onto the ribbon cable. So that seems really cool. I did have a picture of the architecture, but unfortunately you're just going to have to listen to me describe it. Okay, so let's start at the device. So your device connects to a message bus, and it will be periodically sending out a status. There's also a container UI. So the first thing that happens when this device gets turned on, it registers with the message bus, broadcasts the message. I'm a washing machine, this brand. This is my IP address, a couple of other useful things. The container UI is listening to these messages. It'll pick up such a message and register this device. So you can have multiple such devices, they all get registered, and you have a single dashboard displaying the status of all your devices. Added to that, the device also has its own UI. So each of your devices, so you might have a washing machine, a dishwasher, but in that, installed onto that chip, part of the software, is a UI specific to that device. So the idea is, in the container UI, if you click on any of your devices, it takes you to the UI for that device in the way I'd envisioned it, in something like an iframe, but I mean, UI elements are not important in this case. Basically, it takes you to the UI of that device where you can then start, stop, or pause, do whatever it is, from a web-based app. That's the idea. And then you start, there are questions around, well, where do you house the container UI? There are a number of options. I think one needs to keep a number of options available. So it could be installed on something like a home router. It could be a service on the internet. Those are some of the main options. But that's essentially the architecture. So you've got a bus, you've got the device, you've got a container UI, and that's really it. So it sounds really cool. I thought, sure, now I've got a plan. It seems low cost. The tech is low cost. But then, is it so low cost? This is the thing, because it'll take some development effort from the manufacturers of these devices. Also, it kind of breaks one of the marketing models that is currently used, right? Because you do get Wi-Fi enabled devices and Bluetooth enabled devices. You get them, and they come with their own custom apps and everything. But those devices are generally more expensive. So here we're taking an add-on and we're saying, well, for accessibility, we want this. We know that this device can be Wi-Fi enabled very cheaply. So I think there may be some resistance. Thirdly, I'd strongly recommend that we follow strict protocol to these UIs being accessible, and the framework itself that would be useful to the developers should all be open source, and there should be some review process. So this is a process that needs to be funded. Having said all of that, I do feel that this cost is not significant, and that I almost want to say it should fall under social responsibility of companies to further this development. And it's a way of making devices accessible, putting all of these UIs in a central place. Because currently one of the problems is, like, I have a Bluetooth bathroom scale, I have a Bluetooth kitchen scale, they've got different apps. I have something else that's Wi-Fi enabled, that's yet another app. So this is a way of getting all of these things all together in a single place, using a published protocol, an open protocol, which makes it a bit different from doing things like Google Home and Alexa. This is kind of saying, well, let's have something that's open. Let's have something that is available to everybody to make life more accessible. yeah, that's really the main message that I wanted to share, was to give you guys a feel of what it's like, but to also present a possible solution.